Elena Vasquez stood in the center of the giant crystal chamber, feeling smaller than she ever had in her life. Above her, 47 different alien species looked down from their floating platforms. Some had tentacles instead of arms, others had eyes that glowed like stars. A few didn't even have bodies she could understand. This was the Galactic Unity Council, and today they would decide if humanity deserved to join them. Elena had spent 3 years on Nexus Prime, the Council's home world. 3 years of meetings, presentations, and tests. 3 years of trying to prove that humans belonged among the stars with the other civilized races. The hierarchs sat at the highest level of the chamber. They were the oldest beings in the galaxy, ancient creatures who had started the council thousands of years ago. Elena could barely look at them. Their forms seemed to shift and change, like looking at something through water. Hierarch Prime Zethkalar spoke first. His voice came from everywhere at once, filling Elena's mind without using her ears. "Humanity of Earth," the voice said, "we have studied your species for many cycles. We have watched your wars, your conflicts, your inability to unite even your own world. We have seen your emotions control your actions. We have witnessed your stubborn refusal to accept guidance." Elena felt her heart sink. This didn't sound like the beginning of good news. "Your species shows promise," another hierarch continued. "Your creativity is noted. Your determination is unusual. But you are not ready for galactic civilization." The chamber fell silent. Elena could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. "You are too aggressive," Zethkalar said. "Your history is filled with violence against your own kind. You fight wars over resources, over beliefs, over land. How can we trust you with the power of star travel? You are emotionally unstable," a third hierarch added. "Your decisions are driven by feelings rather than logic. You act without thinking. You refuse to control yourselves." And Elena wanted to argue. She wanted to point out all the good things humans had done. Their art, their music, their willingness to sacrifice for others. But she knew it wouldn't matter. The decision had already been made. "Most troubling," Zethkalar continued, "is your rejection of neural linking. Every species in the Council has accepted this technology. It allows us to share thoughts, to prevent misunderstandings, to guide young species toward better choices. You have refused this gift." That was true. The Council had offered to install neural implants in human leaders. The implants would let the Council monitor human thoughts and provide guidance. Humanity's governments had voted unanimously to refuse. "We offer you 2 choices," Zethkalar said. "Submit to guided evolution under Council oversight. Accept our neural linking technology. Allow us to help you become better than you are. Or remain in your solar system, cut off from galactic civilization, until you are ready to accept our wisdom." Elena straightened her shoulders. She had expected this moment, but it still hurt to hear it out loud. "And if we refuse both options?" she asked. The hierarchs seemed amused by the question. "Then you remain alone. Your species will be contained to your system. Any attempt to leave will be prevented." Elena nodded slowly. She looked around the chamber one last time. Some of the alien representatives seemed sad. Others looked relieved. A few appeared to be taking notes. "Then I thank the Council for their time," Elena said. "But humanity's answer is no. We will not submit to guided evolution. We will not accept neural monitoring. If that means we stay in our own system, then that's what we'll do." The silence in the chamber was complete. Elena could feel the shock from the alien representatives. This wasn't how these meetings usually went. Most species begged for another chance. Some threatened war. None had ever just accepted the decision. "You do not beg for reconsideration?" asked Councillor Veltar, a blue-skinned being from the Aquatic Federation. "You do not threaten revenge?" "No," Elena said simply. "You've made your decision based on what you believe about us. We can't change your minds with words. If we're not ready now, maybe we'll be ready later, or maybe we'll find our own way among the stars." She turned and walked toward the exit. Her small diplomatic team followed her. The chamber remained silent until the doors sealed behind them. In the corridor, Elena's assistant, Dr. James Park, whispered, "That could have gone better." Elena smiled grimly. "Actually, I think it went exactly how it was supposed to." Back in the chamber, the alien representatives began talking among themselves. Counselor Veltar spoke to Zeth Kalar in the private mental channel reserved for senior council members. They did not react as expected, Veltar said. Most species rage or plead when denied. Humans simply accepted. Zeth Kalar was quiet for a long moment. When he finally responded, his mental voice carried something that might have been worry. "Yes, that troubles me more than their wars ever could. A species that accepts such a verdict without anger or fear. What are they planning?" On her ship leaving Nexus Prime, Elena recorded a message for Earth's leaders. "The Council has made their decision," she said into the camera. "They see our independence as stubbornness, our emotions as weakness, our refusal to accept neural control as primitive thinking." She paused, looking out at the stars through her ship's window. "They've given us a choice: submit or be caged. But I think they've forgotten something important about humans. We don't do well in cages, and we've never been very good at doing what others expect." Elena ended the recording and sent it toward Earth. The message would take weeks to reach home, traveling through the Council's communication networks. But she knew what the response would be. Humanity would not submit. They would not accept the cage. And if the Council thought 3 years of watching had taught them everything about humans, they were about to learn how wrong they were. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, carrying Elena and her team away from Nexus Prime. Behind them, the Council began planning humanity's containment. None of them suspected that humanity had already begun planning something far more ambitious. The war wouldn't start for 3 years. But in Elena's rejection of the Council's ultimatum, the first shot had already been fired. 6 months after Elena Vasquez returned to Earth, the aliens came to build their cage. They called it the Isolation Protocol. But everyone knew what it really was. A prison with Earth's solar system as the cell. Giant stations appeared at the edge of the system, bristling with weapons and sensors. Alien ships patrolled the spaces between planets. Any human vessel that tried to leave would be turned back or destroyed. Admiral Sarah Chen watched the construction from her office on Luna Base. Through her window, she could see one of the alien monitoring stations hanging in space like a metal spider. Its sensors were always watching, always listening. "How many of them are there now?" asked Dr. Marcus Webb, her chief science officer. 47 stations, Sarah replied without looking away from the window. "Plus at least 200 patrol ships. They're not taking any chances." Marcus sat down heavily in the chair across from her desk. "The president wants to know when we'll be ready to begin Phase 1. Sarah finally turned away from the window. "Tell her we need 6 more months, maybe 8. We can't rush this, Marcus. If the aliens find out what we're really doing, they'll sterilize the system," Marcus finished. "I know, but the waiting is killing morale. People want to fight back." Sarah nodded. She understood the feeling. Humans didn't like being caged, but fighting back the wrong way would just get them all killed. Instead of fighting, humanity had done something the aliens didn't expect. They had gotten quiet. Very quiet. On the surface, it looked like humans had accepted their fate. Trade continued between Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. People went to work, raised families, lived their lives. The only difference was the alien stations watching their every move. But beneath the surface, humanity was changing. In secret facilities buried deep under Earth's moon, thousands of scientists worked on projects the monitoring stations couldn't detect. They had learned to hide their activities using the aliens' own technology. Every piece of equipment the Council had given them during the diplomatic talks had been studied, reverse-engineered, and improved. Dr. Jennifer Walsh ran the most secret project of all. Deep beneath the Sahara Desert, her team was building something that shouldn't exist. They called it the Quantum Fold Drive, and it would let ships travel faster and farther than anyone thought possible. The test worked, Jennifer told Sarah, over an encrypted communication channel. We can move a ship from Earth to Jupiter in 3 hours. The aliens' sensors can't even detect the energy signature. Sarah felt a thrill of excitement, but kept her voice calm. Any side effects? The test pilot reported some nausea, but nothing serious. We're ready to start Phase 2. Phase 2 was the real test. If it worked, humanity would prove they could do more than just hide from their captors. While Jennifer's team built impossible drives, other groups worked on different projects. Biologists enhanced human genetics, making soldiers stronger and faster. Engineers designed weapons specifically to counter alien advantages. Computer specialists created artificial intelligences that could think in ways alien minds couldn't predict. Most importantly, teams of miners and engineers had begun secret excavations throughout the solar system. To the monitoring stations, it looked like normal resource extraction. The aliens knew humans needed materials to support their growing population. They didn't know that humans were hollowing out asteroids and building hidden bases. Commander Lisa Park oversaw the largest excavation project. Deep inside the asteroid series, her teams had carved out a city. The aliens' sensors showed normal mining activity on the surface. They couldn't detect the massive facility hidden inside. How many people can we move in the first wave? Sarah asked during a secure briefing. Lisa checked her notes. 50,000 to Ceres. Another 30,000 to the base in the Jupiter system. The Mars facilities can handle 100,000. We've also finished the emergency bunkers on Earth's moon. Sarah did the math in her head. Almost 200,000 people could be moved to hidden locations in just the first evacuation. If the aliens discovered their plans and decided to destroy Earth, at least some humans would survive. But survival wasn't enough. Humanity wanted more than just to hide in holes. Dr. Webb's archaeological team had made a discovery that changed everything. While studying radio signals from distant stars, they had found something the Council had never mentioned. Fragments of communications from dead civilizations. There were hundreds of them, Marcus explained to the Secret Leadership Council. Species that developed space travel, built cities on other worlds, created art and culture. Then they just stopped. What happened to them? Asked President Martinez via secure link from Earth. Marcus pulled up a holographic display showing signal patterns. Near as we can tell, they all went through the same process we did. First contact with the Council. A period of evaluation. Then either they joined the Council, or they disappeared. The implications were terrifying. The Council didn't just deny membership to unworthy species, they eliminated them. We found one complete message, Marcus continued. It was hidden in cosmic background radiation, designed to look like natural noise. A species called the predecessors left it as a warning. The message was simple but chilling. The Council feeds on innovation. They harvest the creative energy of young species. Those who resist are eliminated. Those who submit become empty shells. Beware the gift of guidance. President Martinez was quiet for a long moment. How long do we have? Based on the pattern of previous species, we estimate 3 years before they decide we're too dangerous to live. Sarah answered. Maybe less if they discover what we're really doing. The meeting ended with new urgency. Phase 3 would begin immediately. Small teams of volunteers would take the new quantum ships beyond the solar system. They would establish hidden bases in distant star systems, places the Council couldn't find easily. If Earth fell, humanity would survive. And if they survived, they would make sure the galaxy knew the truth about the Council. Late that night, Sarah stood at her window again, watching the alien monitoring station. Its lights blinked steadily, confident in its ability to keep humanity contained. The aliens thought they knew everything about humans. They had studied Earth's history, analyzed human behavior, cataloged human weaknesses. They believed their assessment was complete, but they had made one critical error. They had studied humanity in peacetime. They had never seen what humans were truly capable of when their survival was threatened. As Sarah watched, a small ship launched from the hidden facility on the moon's far side. It was invisible to alien sensors, carrying a team of volunteers toward Alpha Centauri. The first human settlement outside the solar system would be established within the week. The aliens had tried to cage humanity. Instead, they had given humans the motivation to break free not just from their prison, but from every limitation they had ever accepted. The war was still 2.5 years away. But humanity was already winning the first battle, the fight for survival. Soon, they would begin fighting for much more. 2 years after the alien cage went up around Earth, Counselor Veltar received a report that made his gills flutter with concern. "The humans are digging," reported Scanner Prime Keth, one of the automated systems monitoring the human solar system. Massive excavations detected on their moon, several asteroids, and multiple sites throughout their system. Veltar studied the data streams flowing across his workspace. The readings showed enormous amounts of rock and metal being moved, but the energy signatures suggested simple mining operations. "What is their explanation for this activity?" Veltar asked. "They claim population growth requires additional resources," Keth replied. "Their representatives say they are expanding their colonies to support more people." It seemed reasonable. Caged species often expanded within their prison. But something about the scale bothered Veltar. Humans were moving enough material to build small planets. On Ceres, Commander Lisa Park smiled as she received the latest excavation report. The alien monitors were detecting exactly what they were meant to detect: normal mining operations. They had no idea that beneath the asteroid's surface, humanity had built its largest hidden city. The city could house 500,000 people. It had factories, laboratories, schools, and even parks with artificial sunlight. Most importantly, it had launch facilities that the alien sensors couldn't detect. "How many people have we moved so far?" Lisa asked her operations chief. 800,000 to various hidden facilities, Captain Torres replied. "Another 2 million are ready for emergency evacuation if needed." "The aliens still think our population is growing on the surface worlds," Lisa nodded. The deception was working perfectly. While the aliens watched normal mining and colony expansion, humanity was secretly building a civilization they couldn't see. But the hidden colonies were just the beginning. Dr. Jennifer Walsh stood in the briefing room of Facility 7, a base hidden inside a hollowed-out comet in the Kuiper Belt. Around the table sat the commanders of humanity's most secret project, Operation Exodus. "The first outer system base is complete," reported Captain Zhang from his position near Proxima Centauri. "We're invisible to Council sensors and ready to begin Phase 2 construction." Tau Ceti base reports similar success, added Commander Okafor from 12 light-years away. "We've also made contact with the ruins the predecessors mentioned. That last part was the most important discovery. The quantum fold drive didn't just let humans travel faster than the aliens thought possible. It let them reach places the Council had forgotten: dead worlds, empty cities, the remains of civilizations that had faced the same choice as humanity. Dr. Marcus Webb led the archaeological teams studying these ruins. What they found confirmed humanity's worst fears about the Council. "We've cataloged 17 extinct species so far," Marcus reported over the quantum communication network. "All show the same pattern: rapid technological development, contact with the Council, then sudden extinction." "How sudden?" asked Admiral Chen from her command post on Luna. "The Zephyrians went from building starships to complete extinction in less than 50 years, Marcus replied. "The Helix Coalition lasted 37 years after first contact. The longest any species survived after rejecting Council membership was 61 years. The pattern was clear and terrifying. The Council didn't just monitor dangerous species. They eliminated them. We found something else," Marcus continued. "Hidden message caches left by the extinct species. They're scattered across the galaxy, disguised as natural phenomena. Each one contains a piece of the truth about the Council." Admiral Chen felt cold despite the warmth of her office. "What kind of truth?" "The Council isn't what it claims to be," Marcus said. "The hierarchs aren't benevolent guides. They're parasites. They feed on the creative energy of younger species. The neural linking technology doesn't just let them monitor thoughts. It lets them drain the innovation and imagination that makes species unique. The pieces fell into place. The Council didn't want member species to grow and develop. They wanted them docile and controllable. The guided evolution was actually a form of spiritual vampirism. The species that submit to Council guidance become empty shells, Marcus continued. Their art becomes repetitive. Their science stagnates. Their culture dies while their bodies live on. The Council keeps them as pets while feeding on what made them special. Captain Torres spoke from her hidden base near Wolf 359. We found active survivors. 3 species that went into hiding instead of fighting or submitting. They've been hiding for thousands of years, slowly growing stronger. This was the best news humanity had received since the crisis began. They weren't alone in their resistance to the Council. The Umbral Collective has been watching our expansion, Torres continued. They want to meet with human representatives. They say it's time to stop hiding and start fighting back. Admiral Chen felt a surge of hope. Humanity had spent 2 years assuming they would face the Council alone. The possibility of allies changed everything. What do they want from us? She asked. They want us to be the spark that starts a rebellion, Torres replied. According to them, dozens of species are ready to fight. They're just waiting for someone to make the first move. The irony wasn't lost on Admiral Chen. The Council had rejected humanity for being too aggressive and independent. Those same qualities might be exactly what the galaxy needed. Over the following months, secret meetings took place in hidden bases across the galaxy. Human representatives met with the Umbral Collective, the Free Traders of Rigel, and the Wanderer clans. All had stories of Council oppression. All had been waiting for a catalyst. Humanity was that catalyst. The plan that emerged was ambitious beyond anything humans had attempted before. It would require perfect coordination across dozens of star systems. It would mean revealing technologies the aliens didn't know existed. Most dangerously, it would require humans to do what they did best: fight when the odds were impossible. The Council expects us to either submit or hide, Admiral Chen told the assembled human commanders during a secure briefing. They don't expect us to attack. That's our advantage. What's the timeline? Asked Captain Zhang. 6 months to complete preparations, Admiral Chen replied. Then we hit them everywhere at once. Not to conquer, but to reveal the truth. Every species in the galaxy will see what the Council really is. As the meeting ended and the commanders dispersed to their hidden bases, Admiral Chen remained behind with Dr. Walsh. Do you really think we can win? Jennifer asked. Admiral Chen looked out at the stars visible through the base's windows. Somewhere out there, alien monitoring stations still watched Earth, confident in their ability to contain humanity. The Council has been in power for thousands of years, Sarah replied. They've eliminated every species that threatened them. They think they know everything about warfare and rebellion. She paused, then smiled grimly. But they've never fought humans. They've never faced a species that treats impossible odds as a personal challenge. They're about to learn why the rest of the galaxy was right to fear us. The countdown to war had begun. In 6 months, the galaxy would discover that caging humanity hadn't made them safer. It had given them time to become something the universe had never seen before. A species that refused to die quietly. The Council thought they were watching a contained threat slowly fade into irrelevance. They were actually watching humanity prepare to free the galaxy from 10,000 years of spiritual slavery. The cage was about to be broken from the inside. The war began at exactly 0800 Universal Standard Time, on what humans would later call Freedom Day. Hierarch Prime Zeth Kalar was reviewing reports from the human monitoring stations when every alarm in Nexus Prime began screaming at once. His ancient mind, accustomed to millennia of routine, took several seconds to process what his sensors were telling him. Human ships had appeared in 12 different star systems simultaneously. This should have been impossible. The isolation protocol was perfect. No ship could leave the human solar system without being detected and destroyed. How many ships? Zethkalar demanded of his command staff. Unknown, replied his tactical coordinator, a nervous Aquatic Federation officer. They appear and disappear faster than our sensors can track. They're using some form of dimensional phase technology. Zethkalar felt something he hadn't experienced in 2,000 years. Surprise. Show me. The main display activated, showing the Rigel system where Council forces maintained a small garrison. Human ships flickered in and out of normal space like ghosts. They moved in patterns that made no strategic sense, appearing behind Council vessels, firing strange weapons, then vanishing before return fire could reach them. But the most disturbing part wasn't the impossible technology. It was the message the human ships broadcast on all frequencies. Citizens of the galaxy, the Council has lied to you for 10,000 years. They are not your protectors. They are your predators. Today, the truth begins. Shut down their transmissions, Zethkalar ordered. We're trying, sir. Their signals are being broadcast from too many locations. We can't block them all. The message continued playing across the galaxy. With it came data files, archaeological evidence, and testimonies from the extinct civilizations the Council had eliminated. Everything humanity had discovered during their years of secret excavation. Sir, the tactical coordinator said, his voice shaking. We're receiving surrender requests from 17 different species. They're asking to join the human rebellion. Zethkalar's form rippled with rage. In less than an hour, humanity had begun to unravel 10 millennia of careful control. Activate the final protocol, he commanded. Sterilize the human system. Destroy everything. The order went out immediately. Across the galaxy, Council battle fleets turned toward human territory with orders to eliminate every trace of the species that dared challenge their authority. Admiral Sarah Chen watched the Council fleets approaching on her tactical display. From her command ship hidden in the asteroid belt, she could see the massive alien armada gathering at the edge of Earth's system. 300 ships, each one larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. They're really going to do it, said Captain Torres from her position aboard the flagship. They're going to try to wipe us out completely, Sarah nodded grimly. The Council's response was exactly what humanity had expected. When faced with exposure, they would resort to genocide, rather than give up power. All units, this is Admiral Chen. She broadcast to the hidden human fleets. The Council has shown their true face to the galaxy. Now we show them ours. Operation Prometheus is go. Across the solar system, human ships began emerging from hiding places the aliens had never detected. From hollowed-out asteroids, from behind planets, from quantum-fold space itself, the true scope of humanity's preparations became visible. The aliens had been watching Earth for 3 years, confident they knew everything about human capabilities. They were about to learn they had been watching a carefully orchestrated deception. Jesus, whispered Captain Martinez aboard the destroyer Defiance. How many ships do we actually have? The answer would have shocked the Council observers if they had known. Over 2,000 vessels, ranging from massive battleships to small fighters, all built in secret, all equipped with technologies the aliens didn't know existed. The first engagement took place near Jupiter. Council Admiral Vextar led his fleet of 50 ships against what his sensors detected as a small group of human vessels. It should have been a quick victory. Instead, it became a demonstration of everything the Council had failed to understand about humanity. The human ships didn't fight like any species the Council had encountered. They used no formations, followed no tactical doctrine, and seemed to ignore basic principles of fleet combat. Individual ships broke away to engage superior numbers, then vanished before they could be destroyed. Their weapons penetrate our shields, reported Vextar's tactical officer. The energy signature is unlike anything in our databases. The humans had spent 3 years studying captured Council technology. They knew exactly how alien shields worked, and they had designed their weapons specifically to defeat them. But the real shock came when human soldiers began boarding Council ships. The beings that came through the hull weren't the weak, emotional creatures the Council expected. They moved with inhuman speed and precision. Their strength was beyond anything the alien crews could match. Worst of all, they fought with a coordinated intelligence that made no sense for a supposedly chaotic species. They've been enhanced, Vextar realized as he watched his crew fall to human borders. They've modified themselves. The humans had indeed modified themselves, but not in the way the Council expected. Instead of accepting alien guidance, they had chosen their own improvements: stronger muscles, faster reflexes, enhanced intelligence, improved coordination, all achieved through voluntary augmentation that preserved their essential humanity while making them far more dangerous. The battle for Jupiter lasted 6 hours. When it ended, Admiral Vextar's fleet had been captured intact. Not destroyed, captured. The human crews had disabled rather than killed whenever possible. Why? Vextar asked Admiral Chen as she accepted his surrender aboard his own flagship. Because we're not trying to conquer the galaxy, Sarah replied. We're trying to free it. That includes freeing your people from the hierarchs who have been using you. Similar scenes played out across human space. Council fleets found themselves facing an enemy that fought like no species they had encountered. The humans used psychological warfare, exploiting each alien species' specific fears and weaknesses. They employed technologies that shouldn't exist. Most importantly, they demonstrated the same stubborn refusal to surrender that had first worried Zeth Kalar. But the most devastating human weapon wasn't technological. It was truth. As the battles raged, human transmissions continued broadcasting across the galaxy. The evidence of Council crimes, the testimonies of extinct species, and the proof of what happened to civilizations that submitted to guidance. Species that had served the Council for millennia began asking questions they had never been allowed to ask. Why were their cultures stagnant? Why did their art and science never advance? Why did they feel empty despite having everything they were told they should want? Sir, the tactical coordinator reported to Zeth Kalar. We're receiving rebellion reports from 47 systems. Species are demanding answers about the extinct civilizations. Some are attacking Council installations. The galaxy was awakening from 10,000 years of sleep. The careful control the Council had maintained was collapsing. Deploy the harvester fleets, Zeth Kalar commanded. Begin emergency extraction of all Council personnel. If we cannot maintain control, we will take what energy we can and retreat to the deep core. The hierarchs' final plan was simple. If they couldn't keep their empire, they would drain as much life force as possible from their subjects and retreat to the galaxy's center, where they could rebuild their power over millennia. But they had made one critical error. They assumed humanity would be content with freeing their own system. As Council forces began withdrawing across the galaxy, human fleets didn't celebrate victory. Instead, they followed. All ships, new orders, Admiral Chen broadcast to her forces. The Council is retreating. We pursue. We don't stop until every species in this galaxy is free. Captain Torres smiled as she received the orders. Typical human response to winning. Immediately start the next impossible fight. The war was far from over. The Council still had vast fleets, ancient weapons, and the desperate fury of beings who had ruled unchallenged for millennia. But for the first time since their rejection from galactic civilization, humanity wasn't fighting alone. Across the galaxy, liberated species were joining the rebellion. The Umbral Collective emerged from their hidden bases. The Rigel free traders opened their weapon caches. Even some Council member species began switching sides as they learned the truth about their protectors. The galaxy was at war. But for the first time in 10,000 years, it was a war for freedom rather than control. And at the center of it all, the species the Council had deemed too dangerous for civilization led the charge toward a future where no one would ever again have to choose between submission and extinction. 6 months after the first human ships appeared across the galaxy, Elena Vasquez stood once again in the crystal chamber of Nexus Prime. But this time, she wasn't alone at the bottom looking up at alien judges. This time, she stood at the center as representatives from hundreds of liberated species gathered around her. The Galactic Unity Council was dead. The hierarchs had fled to the galaxy's core after their final desperate attempt to harvest the life force of entire worlds had failed. Their ancient empire lay in ruins, and the galaxy faced its first free dawn in 10,000 years. Citizens of the galaxy, Elena began, her voice carried by quantum transmitters to every inhabited world. 6 months ago, humanity was told we were too dangerous for civilization. Today, I want to talk about what happens when the dangerous ones are the ones in charge. The chamber was filled with beings Elena had never seen before. Species that had hidden from the council. Others that had served it unwillingly. And some that had only recently been freed from neural linking control. All of them were learning what it meant to make their own choices. We could have conquered, Elena continued. Human fleets are the strongest military force this galaxy has ever seen. We could have become the new rulers, the new controllers. Some of you might even prefer that. It would be simpler than what we're offering. She paused, looking around at the assembled representatives. But we didn't fight a war to replace one tyrant with another. We fought to give every species what the council tried to deny us. The freedom to succeed or fail on our own terms. Dr. Marcus Webb stood beside Elena, his archaeological data displayed on floating screens throughout the chamber. The evidence of the council's crimes was overwhelming. 17 extinct civilizations, millions of drained minds, entire worlds left as empty shells. The council claimed to guide evolution, Marcus said. What they actually did was prevent it. Every species they helped stopped growing, stopped creating, stopped becoming more than they were. They turned the galaxy into a garden where nothing was allowed to bloom too brightly. Stopped creating. Stopped creating. In the months since the council's fall, the evidence had become impossible to deny. Former council species were experiencing an explosion of creativity and innovation they hadn't felt in millennia. Art forms that had been stagnant for thousands of years suddenly flourished with new ideas. Scientific discoveries emerged daily from minds no longer constrained by neural links. But freedom wasn't without its problems. 17 different territorial wars have started since the council fell, reported Admiral Chen from her position as head of the new Galactic Security Force. 3 trade disputes that almost became shooting wars. 2 species are having civil wars over what kind of government to create now that they're free. Elena nodded. She had expected this. The council had maintained peace through control. Without that control, all the conflicts they had suppressed were bubbling to the surface. This is what freedom looks like, she told the assembled representatives. It's messy, it's dangerous, it's unpredictable. But it's also the only way species can truly grow. The Federation of Independent Worlds that Elena proposed wasn't perfect. It couldn't be. Any organization that tried to control its members would risk becoming another council. Instead, the Federation offered something simpler. Mutual defense, free trade, and shared knowledge. No species was required to join. No species would be punished for leaving. What about the dangerous ones? Asked Representative Korth of the Hegemony Worlds, a species that had served the council as enforcers for 3,000 years. What happens when someone decides to conquer their neighbors? Elena smiled grimly. That's what we're for. She gestured toward the human fleet representatives in the chamber. In 6 months of war, humanity had demonstrated capabilities that shocked even their allies. They had fought the galaxy's greatest military power to a standstill, then systematically dismantled it. More importantly, they had done it while showing mercy to defeated enemies and protecting innocent civilians. Humanity will serve as the Federation's military force, Elena announced. Not as rulers, but as protectors. Any species that tries to recreate the Council's empire will find themselves facing the same people who destroyed the original. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some representatives cheered. Others looked worried. A few seemed calculating, already wondering how to exploit this new arrangement. What's to stop you from becoming conquerors yourselves? Asked Ambassador Veltar, one of the few former council members still trusted by other species. Elena had been waiting for this question. It was the most important one anyone could ask. Because we already had that choice and rejected it, she replied. 6 months ago, human fleets could have demanded tribute from every world we liberated. We could have set ourselves up as the new galactic overlords. Instead, we helped species rebuild their own governments and asked for nothing in return. She pulled up a display showing human military deployments across the galaxy. Look at what we actually did. Human forces are stationed at former council worlds. But we're not ruling them. We're protecting them while they figure out how to rule themselves. The moment any world asks us to leave, we will. Captain Torres, now commanding the Federation's Rapid Response Fleet, added her perspective. Humans don't want to rule the galaxy. We want to explore it. There are millions of uncharted worlds out there, extinct civilizations to study, mysteries to solve. Sitting in palace rooms making decisions for other species sounds boring. That got a laugh from several representatives. The human love of exploration and discovery had become legendary during the war. Even while fighting the Council, human science teams had been investigating ancient ruins and making contact with hidden civilizations. What about the hierarchs? Asked Representative Siren of the Crystal Collective. They're still alive in the deep core. What happens when they rebuild their power? Elena's expression hardened. They won't get the chance. Human fleets are already establishing monitoring posts around the galactic core. If the hierarchs try to return, they'll face the same welcome they gave us, total rejection. Over the following hours, the framework for the new galactic order took shape. The Federation would be voluntary, democratic, and limited in its powers. Individual worlds could govern themselves however they chose. Trade would be free but regulated to prevent exploitation. Most importantly, any species that showed signs of becoming another council would face immediate intervention. We're not perfect, Elena admitted as the session neared its end. Humans make mistakes. We fight among ourselves. We sometimes act without thinking, but we've learned something the council never understood. Perfect control isn't worth having if it kills everything that makes life worth living. The vote to establish the Federation was overwhelming. 247 species in favor, 23 opposed, and 31 abstaining. It wasn't universal approval, but it was enough to begin. As the representatives dispersed to carry news of the new order to their home worlds, Elena remained in the chamber with her closest advisors. Think it will work? Asked Dr. Webb. Elena looked up at the crystal dome above them, where stars were visible through the transparent ceiling. Each point of light represented worlds where beings were making their own choices for the first time in millennia. It will work until it doesn't, she replied. Then we'll figure out something better. That's what free people do. 3 years later, Elena stood in a very different place. The observation deck of the exploration ship Endeavour, humanity's first deep space research vessel. Through the windows, she could see a binary star system where no intelligent life had ever evolved. It was perfect. The survey team found 17 different mineral compositions we've never seen before, reported Captain Jackson, the ship's commander. Dr. Patel thinks the binary star interaction created unique chemical conditions. Elena nodded, but her attention was focused on the communications display. Messages from across the galaxy streamed in constantly. The Federation now included 419 species. Trade was booming. Art and science flourished like never before. There had been problems, of course. 2 attempted coups, a trade war that required military intervention, and 3 species that had tried to recreate smaller versions of the Council's empire. Each time, human fleets had responded with precisely the amount of force needed to restore order without causing unnecessary destruction. Incoming priority message from Earth, announced the communications officer. Elena accepted the transmission. President Martinez appeared on the screen, looking tired, but pleased. Elena, we just received a message from the Deep Core Monitoring Station. The hierarchs tried to launch a return fleet. Admiral Chen's forces intercepted them at the barrier zone. Casualties? Elena asked. None on our side. The hierarchs' ships were captured intact. Apparently, they hadn't improved their technology at all during their exile. Sarah says it was almost disappointingly easy. Elena smiled. The Council's greatest weakness had always been their stagnation. They had relied on ancient power instead of innovation, control instead of growth. When faced with an enemy that constantly evolved and adapted, they had no answer. What's the plan for the prisoners? They'll be tried for their crimes against the extinct species, Martinez replied. A joint Federation tribunal. Justice, not revenge. After the transmission ended, Elena returned to watching the stars. Somewhere out there, human exploration teams were making contact with new civilizations, studying ancient mysteries, and pushing the boundaries of known space. Other species were doing the same, no longer constrained by the Council's limitations. The galaxy was chaos compared to the orderly empire the hierarchs had built. There were conflicts, misunderstandings, and mistakes. There were also discoveries, innovations, and achievements that would have been impossible under the old system. "Ma'am," Captain Jackson said softly, "we're receiving a transmission from the Outer Rim. The Wanderer clans have found something." Elena turned away from the stars. "What kind of something?" "Evidence of another galaxy with intelligent life. They're asking for human assistance in making contact." Elena felt the familiar thrill of discovery, the same feeling that had driven humanity to reject the Council's cage and fight for the freedom to explore. "Set course for the Outer Rim," she ordered. "Maximum speed." As the Endeavour turned toward its new destination, Elena reflected on how far humanity had come. 3 years ago, they had been deemed unworthy of galactic civilization. Now they were leading that civilization toward a future brighter than anyone had imagined. The Council had been wrong about many things, but they had made one accurate assessment. Humans were dangerous. They were dangerous to tyrants, to stagnation, to anyone who believed that sentient beings should be controlled rather than free. The galaxy was a better place because of that danger. Behind them, the binary stars continued their ancient dance, no longer alone in an empty system. Soon, other ships would come to study their unique properties. Scientists would establish research stations. Artists would be inspired by their beauty. The universe was vast and full of wonders waiting to be discovered. And for the first time in galactic history, every species was free to discover them. That freedom was humanity's gift to the galaxy, earned through blood and determination, and an absolute refusal to accept that anyone else had the right to limit their potential. The stars beckoned, and finally, everyone was free to answer their call.